Good morning, everybody. It's 9:45. We're here for our special session in regards to the truth for taxation notice that maybe some of you received. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda in the minutes? Or no minutes, just the agenda, I'm sorry.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any public comment? We'll get down to the public hearing. 9:45 is when we have our proposed property tax levy hearing for the year ending June 30th, 2027. Just a little context for those that are here. A few years back, the state legislature, in their infinite wisdom, started sending out these notices, which is fine. I think we're all for transparency, but there's been a lot of confusion in the past regarding these notices. And we've been working and communicating with the legislature some of our frustrations from the county perspective, because these all come from Cerro Gordo County. So everyone assumes that these are all because of Cerro Gordo County, which is our jurisdiction. But the facts of the matter is that there are three different hearings. There's one levy for the Mason City Public Schools. There's one for the City of Mason City, City of Clear Lake. They all separate hearings. This one is primarily for the proposed tax levy coming from Cerro Gordo County Board of Supervisors. So just to put that in context, of the three entities that you may be seeing on yours, ours is the actual only levy that's going down. But I digress. So now would be the time if anybody would like to speak regarding our proposed levy.
What's the difference between urban resident and rural resident?
Heather's our budget manager. She's much more articulate on that. I mean, I clearly know what it is, but Heather, if you could just speak to it, that'd be helpful.
Sure. The rural resident has property in the unincorporated area, and they pay both the rural levy and the countywide levy, versus the urban resident would just pay the countywide levy.
And the reason that is because the urban resident also pays for their incorporated city taxes. So they would pay
In the city portion.
Correct. And the idea is that the rural folks basically use some of the city resources.
So that's the reason that the rural rate is higher.
Correct.
And what's the difference between current rate and effective rate?
The current rate is the rate we are levying today for the fiscal 26 budget. It's the taxes you paid last September and in March. The effective rate is an arbitrary rate that the state has come up with that takes the current tax dollars and it uses the upcoming taxable value.
For next year?
Right, it's the value for next year, but the taxes for the current year. That's the effective rate, and that's something that the state requires us to put on these notices. It's not the rate that we are levying for next year. On the far right is the proposed tax levy. That is the rate that the board is proposing for next year's budget. So if you look at the Cerro Gordo County public hearing in the middle of the page I'm looking at, if you look at the first line is the urban resident, you can see the current tax rate is $5.33. The effective rate is $4.94. That's taking the current dollars with next year's values. But on the far right is the proposed tax rate. That's $4.98. That is the rate that the board is proposing for the budget next year. So you can see the rate is going from $5.33, dropping down to $4.98. So about a 35-cent drop.
Same with the rural.
Exactly, yes.
Was this the third year that this,
Third year.
and
That's why I said 18.
this is, in my opinion, a waste of taxpayer money. And we've talked to our legislators and senators about this most recently this last December, but it confuses people all over the state with this new thing that they mandated us to mail out every year.
That's why everybody's coming to these meetings.
Right. And
It's nice to have the transparency though.
But they can explain it better.
yeah. So the legislatures and senators were going to take it up this year, but I haven't heard anything about it yet.
Question, I fall into that rural resident category. So you're telling me that, my proposed tax rate next year will be lower?
Yes.
Hallelujah.
For the county's portion. For the county's portion. So, we're not speaking regarding the school or
Yeah,
township or NIAC, any of those levies, but for the county's portion, yes. The current rate is $8.60. The board is proposing it to drop to $8.
just curious why there's separation between the urban and the rural, ag farmers and that kind of thing.
Right, and that's how it's set up in the Iowa code.
Yeah,
That's how we're required to do the budget. We have the countywide, which pays, a lot of the courthouse operations, auditor, treasurer, recorder, conservation, that type of thing. And then your
Probably most importantly, our jail and public safety.
jail, yes, sheriff.
The biggest bite of our budget. So everybody in the county uses Cerro Gordo County Jail for law enforcement, even the Mason City and Clear Lake, Rockwell Police Departments.
Right. The rural portion then is an additional tax on the rural property owners, and that a large chunk of that tax goes to the secondary road department.
Additional services that the rural residents receive, primarily building, maintaining, and plowing.
Where the city doesn't get the nips for that.
Correct.
They get it in the city budget for city
Yeah.
streets.
Exactly.
one of the big pieces of the decrease this year too is our law enforcement center. This is the last year of the bond payment, and I think that's paid off in June. Is
Yes.
that correct? So I don't want to say that Tony will be debt free, but pretty much. So
Did you say that's why the taxes are, why you're able to, for the budget?
part of it.
And what other, are there any big items that are changing also
We'll
besides?
have a budget hearing here coming up April day, where we actually, the budget has been published, but we'll go through that in detail as to what we've been able to.
April 27th. Monday, part of our regular meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there's consideration given to the rural side under certain circumstances right now. I know in talking to some loan officers, there's money available for people to buy land, farm. But there's also, this person indicated that there are some farms that are borderline. They're treading with water. Why does that happen? Well, we have 3 wars going on.
Yeah, no,
The
that's
one in
not,
Iran is affecting fertilizer costs, it's affecting fuel, gas, diesel. So bottom lines are coming down for farmers. They're starting.
yeah, no, that was not a consideration because we made this budget before the war started.
Oh, I'm just saying. We're talking now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
the budget has been published.
I'm sure there's some consideration given, but
Yeah, maybe next year when we do the budget, we can.
I would hope so. Iran doesn't help at all. 3 wars going on.
Yeah, this really isn't a forum for that.
I'm not saying it's a forum for them.
No, well, I'm telling you it's not.
Well, I understand that.
So is there any other
But I'm
questions?
concerned too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a federal issue.
Back row.
Yeah, go ahead.
My question is concerning total value. Is it appropriate to ask that question?
Sure.
Okay, I went back, we lived in our home 32 years. I went back the last 10 years on the total home value, and it has exponentially risen. And even though by this, it's saying that the proposed tax rate is going down, my home value last year increased greatly.
Yeah.
And over the past 10 years, we have done no major improvements in our home.
Sure.
But from the time we bought our home 32 years ago, for the first 23 years, the value did not increase, and we had done improvements. But the last 10 years, as I assessed those numbers, it's gone up, by a huge amount,
Sure.
thus raising my taxes in the last 10 years to almost double.
Yeah.
That's a concern to me as a property owner.
Sure.
Um,
And I think,
and the total home value is assessed, saying that I'm going to be able to at least get that much money out of my home. That's an assumed value. That's not a for sure value. And that concerns me when we're talking about taxation.
sure. And I think that's a valid concern. You're not alone because mine has done the same thing. What I think that's part of the reason the legislature is trying to tackle property tax and curbing growth because of assessments going up. That also, there is a mechanism for you to dispute your assessment with our county assessor. There's an appeals process when you did get your assessment. So if you wanted to visit with our county assessor to talk about that, to dispute it, there's definitely a mechanism for you to do that.
Like something I found out just this last year, it's when I was talking to my insurance agent, they were telling me that I had 1.5 baths.
Sure.
I don't have one. I have one bathroom in our home and a utility sink that sits next to my washer and dryer. On the information that insurance companies gather from, which I'm assuming they get that from the county assessor's office out there on different websites on concerning your home. These websites are saying I have 1.5 baths. Now, do you consider
It
it
happened to me.
a utility sink next to your washer a half bath?
And no, that's a great question. Again, probably one best suited for our county assessor. And that's something you can definitely dispute with their jurisdiction to talk about whether or not they're accurately assessing your property.
Problem is that the county assessors are not getting accurate figures on a lot of these buildings. They had the wrong size buildings on my place. That's all it takes is to
There were
measure.
mistakes like that on mine too, where they said I had a full basement. I don't have a full basement. It's primarily crawl space. But that was unfortunately, it was my responsibility to review my statement and review my assessment and go through and see what the mistakes are, go through the appeals process, talk to the assessor and make sure it's corrected.
Right.
And that's what I had to do. Unfortunately, that weight is bared on the property owner a little bit. To know what you have. But the thing is, pay attention to what you get for your assessment, because it does, there are mistakes a little bit, because the contractors that do the assessments quite often they go pretty quick. They don't necessarily go in every house. They make some assumptions. So make sure you're on top of it. Make sure everybody reviews everything. That's just doing your due diligence. So.
Not only as county assessor, but if you live in the city of Mason City, reach out to the city assessor as well. And they have a process to with you.
Mary, do you still have a question? I didn't know if you could see your hand.
How is the total value figured? What do you use as your calculations?
So you need
or-
to set an assessor in here to answer that properly.
Assessors find in place value on every piece of real estate in the county. And then what our office does, the auditor's office, then will take that data, and that's what we use for taxation purposes. So the assessors, it all starts with them of determining the value.
And don't the assessors actually hire a third party to go out and assess?
They have in recent years.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the last time they did one, but they have hired a third party. And they're completely regulated per Iowa code as to how the assessor has to do their job. The assessor does not do their job and don't have the facts and the figures to support what they're trying to assess. The state can issue an equalization order, which means they come in, they take over the assessor's job, and they just carte blanche spread it amongst everybody in the county. And so instead of our assessor that goes, they try to use data to go neighborhood by neighborhood for comparables, right? And so you live on the lake, for example, they're going to think everybody on the lake should be more similar than maybe somebody that lives in Swaledale or Missouri. If they don't do their job properly and they're heavily regulated, the state comes in and just says, well, we're not gonna just deem lakeshore property. Everybody in the whole county is just gonna get a flat assessment increase of X, Y, Z. So it may be a little arbitrary, but there is definitely a method to the madness. It's not just the Wild West where they go in and say, well, that looks like a nice house. I'm going to assess it for this and that. So it's definitely a complex manner that they try to be thoughtful about, but definitely, ma'am, mistakes are made. So it's good to bring those to the assessor's attention.
Well, I guess my point in saying all of that is that, you know, as you can see, you know, that the urban residence is going down from the current tax rate. But in reality, it's not. Because my total value went up, I'm going to pay more taxes. And that's what I'm trying to say, that over 10 years, the last 10 years out of 32 years of owning this home, the valuation has gone up so much that even though you may say that we're not increasing the tax rate, you are increasing taxes because my valuation is going up.
That's definitely one way of looking at it. And we can also say, Supervisor Watts, when you and I started, what was the cost of a road grader?
275,000, and right now I think it was, Brandon, what are they, 4.25 now?
Bringing them up.
In 8 years time, from 275,000 to 480,000 for a road grader.
Inflation hasn't helped our cost or building costs. So,
Just like
or
groceries.
the equipment and all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely ongoing expenses, and we've tried to do our best to be diligent with the taxpayers' dollars.
So as far as you're concerned, you set your budget as to the amount of total dollars you need to operate the county.
Correct. And on that point, I would note, Heather, what portion of county taxpayer dollars come from the school district?
Bear with me, I have that here.
How much?
So keep in mind, your total assessment is not just going to Cerro Gordo County, right? So when your house values go up, I don't know, 30 or 40% more.
Can you hold that up so they can see?
Right, now this is based on current year taxes, fiscal year 26. The blue pie chart is what the schools take. They take 41%. The cities is the red, that's about 29%, and the county is green, 22%. And then there's a variety of smaller jurisdictions like Nyack and the townships assessors.
Also the tax for Nyack, or the extra taxes that are taken for Nyack and for the school system, those have came up for votes in the past too, and like building the field house
Sure.
and different projects at Nyack. Those are things that are on your, on the ballots.
And to see more in detail on that,
Yeah.
I would invite you all 2 weeks from today or 3 weeks from today. What is 3 weeks from today? Whatever it is, April 27th is when we have our budget, and very informative. Heather does a good job on our budget for the taxpayers, so
If they have their mailing, it's on the back page, the top, it shows the breakdown of percentage where your tax dollars go to which authority.
Yeah.
Oh.
36.
Anything else?
Have they set a time then for April 27th?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Thank you.
This meeting into our next one, you're more than welcome to stay because it's only probably going to take 15 minutes maybe.
Yeah, I gotta go grab my binder. Anything else on this? Yes, sir.
You mentioned just a few minutes ago that the county prison is one of the most expensive things, and you mentioned other townships and stuff that were putting people in there. Are they all from Cerro Gordo County? Or are we taking prisoners from other counties, and are they paying for that?
At one time, we were taking, when there was a lower capacity, like if our jail, for instance, wasn't at capacity, we would allow other jurisdictions. It would be surrounding counties that don't have facilities such as ours. But yes, they are required to pay to house in our jail. So the taxpayers of Cerro Gordo County are not shouldering that burden for adjacent non-taxpayers.
Like this lady, I moved here in 2019. I left my taxes in the car, mistake. I paid in 2019, $3,800 in total taxes. Today I'm paying 68. Okay, that's how much it's going up. Now, I haven't seen the paperwork yet, and hopefully I can be here on the 27th, but apparently you're doing a fairly good job keeping it down. My question is, how many non-taxable buildings are in Cerro Gordo County that don't pay any tax?
Assessor question.
Okay, I don't know. I couldn't tell you that.
The county assessors would be the ones that would be the best one to determine that for the county, or the city assessor for the Mason City. Because again, they would be the ones that find in place value. And if there's a fully exempt property, then that would obviously come off the tax rolls.
And with that in mind, if any of you aren't aware, they used to be on the 3rd floor. They're across the alley behind us now, the old dentist building or whatever it was. City and county assessors are over there with, if you wanted questions or to appeal your assessment also, that'd be the place to go.
And on the assessments, once they're reassessed, do they just go up a certain amount every year till they're reassessed again? And how often are they reassessed?
They're reassessed annually, but there's a more in-depth assessment that goes on when they partner with this third party.
Every 3 years, I think.
3 years. I think they're looking to do it. I think that's part of the bill, right?
Are they just adding the cost of living? I mean, how do they, before the other company comes in and does a hard assessment, how do they move it up every time?
A lot of it is based on transactions, real estate transactions that are comparables.
So a
Again,
retirees getting 3% in Social Security, our homes could be going up 5%
they could be.
assessment.
And I believe that's why the state legislature is attempting to curb the increase.
Thank you.
You bet.
How would the proposed data center, I know it's not proposed yet, but there's people talking about data center coming to town. How would that affect this part of our taxes?
I couldn't, as far as the county goes, it wouldn't affect it at all. I mean, as far as our jurisdiction, I can't talk about the city of Clear Lake or the city of Mason City or the school districts, but as far as Cerro Gordo County is concerned, right now, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't affect our county tax.
Theoretically, if a data center went on county outside of a incorporated city, out in the county, that would increase the valuation, which would in turn decrease that amount in theory that you would have to pay. If they're paying if there's a data center out in the county paying a significant amount of property tax, it could bring down that portion of the total. So.
Okay, but it's being looked at as city property right now. So, yeah,
That's
okay.
That's what we're hearing.
Anything else? Thank you all for coming. That closes the portion of this public hearing. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Move to adjourn. Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye, we're adjourned.